last point I just want to make about this, because sometimes the conversation here in the Beltway differs from the conversation internationally. Mr. Putin had to go into Syria not out of strength but out of weakness, because his client, Mr. Assad, was crumbling, and it was insufficient for him simply to send them arms and money.
Well, that was President Obama earlier today as we watched a third day of Russian airstrikes in the Middle East. But as the commander-in-chief accuses his Kremlin counterpart of weakness, the headline writers see it differently. The New York Post suggesting Putin wants to, quote, humiliate Obama. The Weekly Standard calling this a, quote, extraordinary show of weakness. And as the London-based Economist suggests, while Putin dares, Obama dithers. Tonight we have former President George W. Bush speechwriter Mark Thiessen with a fact check of President Obama's claims. But we begin tonight with the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, General Michael Flynn. General Flynn, let me start where Tony Shaffer left off, suggesting that you and others had been trying to warn this administration about the threat actually posed by ISIS for some time. He believes your testimony before Congress to that effect is what led to you being forced out as DIA chief. Is that true?
Well, Megyn, what I would just tell you is that I believe the intelligence assessments that the president has received over the last few years have been actually pretty accurate. And I know the intelligence assessments that we provided, that my agency provided, I think were spot on. I think what we learned this week with Putin placing Russian forces in Syria, I mean, if we ever saw a Russian reset, we just saw the Russians reset into the Middle East in a big way. And I don't agree with what the president said today. This is not out of weakness. I mean, he's demonstrating a lot of savvy and cunning by doing what he's doing. I mean, it's for a variety of reasons. The other thing I would say, Megyn, is that we just learned also this week what I would describe as the unmentioned red lines that Putin has had in the Middle East, and potentially the fall of Assad, potentially the crumbling of the Syrian army in the face of ISIS. And so, what I would just say is, it's kind of like the old thing, when I was a kid, first things first. I think what we have to do is decide what is the greatest threat that we face there, and it is these radical Islamic militants. That's number one. Mm-hmm.
Who Putin's not killing. He's not killing them. Yeah. He's killing the people we trained over there to fight Assad.
I'm not going to apologize for anything that the Russians are doing, but I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see what the real results are there. But I would just say we have to decide to do something, because the Russians just made a big move, and we can't just say, well, Mr. Putin, go home, Russians go home. It's not going to happen. I mean, the reality is the dynamics in the Middle East radically changed this week because we failed to lead. And I think that the president had a great opportunity today to put some clarity behind what it was that we're doing. And I just think he missed a great opportunity. He really did. I mean, I was hoping that, I watched it, hoping that he was going to say something to the effect of what we were going to do, how much we were going to change.
What should we do? What do you think we should do?
Yeah, I think right now we're going to have to decide that, we have sort of one enemy that we know that we have in common, and that is the radical Islamists that are in the ISIL or ISIS, this Islamic State. We have to decide that that's the greater threat right now, despite all the problems of a guy like Assad.
What should we be telling Putin when he tells us, get your jets out of there and get your people out of there?
I don't think we should listen to Putin at all when it comes to that. I think we should, in no uncertain terms, tell him how we are going to operate, what we need to do. And I mean, all this business about no-fly zones, we're sort of past that point. Some of those things can still be discussed, but we just passed a major, a big milestone here in the escalation of conflict in the Middle East. And it is going to grow worse before it gets better. And I don't think that we should be, asking Mr. Putin for anything. I think we ought to be telling the Russians what it is that we are going to do in order to accomplish our mission. And I also think that at this stage, because the Russians, I think you're right, the Russians are going to keep Assad in power. And what we need to do is we need to say to the international community, we're going to deal with the Islamic radical threat first. And internationally, maybe we go after Assad in an international court or something like that. But this situation just changed radically, and there's not going to be easy answers. In fact, that we are actually moving closer to greater conflict And what that does is that limits the number of options that we have. It increases our risk. And Megyn, sadly, it's going to increase the cost to try to solve this problem because we really did nothing.
General Flynn has been jumping up and down about this for years, We appreciate you being here tonight, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Megyn.